Look at this zipper pocket. It's in one of the seams. It's super neat. Inside we have the pocket bags, and the technique is not hard. You can use this technique and add it to another seam anywhere, on any garment, a vertical seam. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today you're gonna see me twice. I just made a garment, it's gorgeous. You'll see the video all about that garment next. As I was thinking, how am I gonna present the content? I decided to extract the zipper pocket tutorial that is found within that jacket and just have it here on its own standalone technique video, because the technique is amazing. You could use the same technique and add it onto any other garment if you wanted to. If you wanted to add a zipper pocket on a side seam, maybe on a princess seam that's vertical, on any seam, a horizontal seam, you could go ahead and add this on. As you might already know, we're in a little time period where a lot of brands are having Black Friday sales. It's not any different for each to stitch. The Black Friday sale started last Friday the 23rd and it runs through Monday the 27th. The last two patterns that were released, the Andes that I'm going to show you now and the Islares, which is what I'm wearing now, it's a neat raglan. Those are 20% off, but all the rest are 25% off. And then I'm also plugging in here other brands that I'm an affiliate to that are also running Black Friday sales, in case you didn't know. Green Style has a 45% off Black Friday sale, also through tomorrow the 27th. You have to type the code BF23, Black Friday 23, and I'll leave you my affiliate link and my playlist, all my makes. Also, Pattern Emporium is running a modified Black Friday sale because it's not the whole site, it's just the tanks and the t-shirts, the essentials. So I'll leave you a link to the patterns that are 20% off, plus my affiliate link and my playlist. Also, Sinclair Patterns is having a 25% off sale site-wide, no code needed there. Wardrobe by Me is running a 30% off site-wide sale, also through tomorrow the 27th. The code there is WBM, which stands for Wardrobe by Me, and 30 altogether. Lots of sales going on. I'd be really grateful if you used my affiliate links. As you know, I work really hard to have really helpful, practical sewing content for you. So if you do use my link, I really appreciate it. It's one of the ways I make an income doing all of this work on YouTube. I've sewn in one of the zippers already. I'm using this black zipper. Actually, the tape isn't going to be too visible. It's mainly the teeth that are going to be visible. The important thing is that the zipper has to be plastic. You can't use metal teeth here because you're going to be sewing over the zipper tape in both areas, on the top and the bottom. So it has to be a plastic one. Now this is how it's going to end up being. It's top stitch right there. There's a little corner. The zipper is caught in there. On this other side we have the pocket bag. They're sewn together over here. So that is the end result. Once the zipper is into this main center front piece, it will just become part of the center front piece. It's very neat. Once this is all in, then we can sew in that other curved piece that comes in here. That is the end result. It's so much easier than you think. It's just got a few little steps that need to be accurate. It's amazing. It's so enjoyable. And I know I'm going to be borrowing this technique from this jacket and adding it onto other things. Later on, if you see me sew this, I can refer back to this standalone video. One thing to consider, the seam allowance of this garment is 3/8 of an inch. So all the steps to get the zipper pocket to work are based on a 3/8 seam allowance. So if you want to sew this onto a pattern that has a 5/8 seam allowance or 1/2 inch, just make sure that you modify your pattern so that that seam that's going to have the zipper pocket has a 3/8 seam allowance, so that everything turns out beautiful. You're gonna love it. Let's see. I've got a pair of pockets here. We have two different pairs. I'm just gonna write down wrong side so it's easy to see what is the wrong side. And you can see that I have already serged all the edges of the pocket bags. So the straight edge around here, it's all done. And I did 4 of these before I even started the pocket. So it's much easier to get this done now than trying to do it later. Now right here, we have these little lines. I've marked them in yellow. I'm gonna mark them on the right side as well so I can see them on the same place, because on the first step you need to see these marks but from the other side. So we're going to work with this pocket bag. This is right sides up, and we have the straight edge here on my right hand and then the curved edge on my left hand. It's lightly going down like that. So make sure you have this pocket bag right here. I wrote W's on the wrong side so that it's easy to know. I'm going to be using a jacket zipper for these short zipper pockets as well, because I want them to look all the same. Otherwise, the most common widths that you'll find are 1 inch wide or 1 1/4. So depending on the width of your zipper tape is how we're going to be sewing this. There's instructions for both options. So taking into account that this is 1 1/4 inches here from the line I need to draw from this edge inwards is going to be 1/2 inch. But if you're using a narrower zipper tape, a 1-inch tape, then you would draw 5/8 of an inch in. So I'm just going to do some marks over here. This is 1/2 inch in because my tape is 1 1/4 inches wide. You can see these marks right here. They need to be really clearly seen. That's why I mark them on the right side as well, because originally they were just on the wrong side. I suggest you use a longer zipper than you think you need, because we're still going to be trimming off anyway everything from the top, so you're not going to be using that zipper stop, and at the bottom we're not going to be using the zipper stop either. If it's longer, there's no harm done. So I'm just going to place the zipper here right next to it, leave myself a good inch hanging off right here from that mark up. I've got marks on my zipper tape that align with the mark over here, and down here I also want to have these marks really well done. What I'm going to do at the bottom of this mark is make my own stop just by sewing, because look, down here we have this metal type of situation that's all going to be trimmed off. About 1/2 inch under that, going back and forth. So I'm just going to take my sewing machine and sew like this and create my own zipper stop. I've lengthened my stitch length to 5 over here. I think the length of zippers is something you can relax about. If it's longer, it's no drama. If it's shorter, you can't use it, but if it's longer, no worries. So you can see my new zipper stop. And does this work? Yes, it does. Look, bang, it stops it. There's no way this is going to keep going down. So this is a nice zipper stop that is non-bulky because it's just thread basically. So let's just get rid of all that excess. Now we have the correct length of the zipper in place right here. We have our marks done. What we need to do is having both the pocket bag and the zipper right sides up. You can see the pull there. We move this over here so that we have that excess on its own over here, and we align the marks. That mark over here, that mark over there, and the edge of the zipper tape along the line that we had marked before. And if you know me, you know I'm going to hand baste this so it doesn't move. And it's the only time we will be doing some hand basting actually for this zipper. You don't really need anything more than this. Remember the edge of the tape along the line that you just marked. In my case, the mark is 1/2 inch inwards because I'm using a tape that's 1 1/4 inches wide. Now I'm basting a little over the marks, but we're going to sew from mark to mark. But I just want to keep it in place a little higher and a little lower than the marks. Now I'm going to take my zipper presser foot, hold it onto the left side of it here. If you are sewing a zipper tape that's just 1 inch wide, just leave your needle as it is, centered. But if you're using a wider tape like this one, move the needle over to the left. Now in the instructions, it says for the one I'm sewing here, that from the edge of the tape, I need to measure 3/8 of an inch in to sew there. If I measured that and marked it, it would just be an extra step I really don't need, because having the needle on the left side is exactly where this is going to end up being anyway. So when I sew this, it's going to be at about 3/8 of an inch from here inward. Now, if my tape was narrower and it was just 1 inch wide, I would want my sewing to be a little further away from here, about 1/4 of an inch from here that way. So that means that if I kept the needle in the centered position and sewed like that, just the original position of the needle, the stitch would come out further from the zipper. So it just depends on what tape you're using, how you're going to place your needle, whether you're going to keep it centered or to the left. In my case, I'm going to move it to the left because I want to be slightly closer to the teeth. Now I can see the mark there. I want to sew exactly from the mark down, so I don't want to sew higher. And I'm going to reinforce. Keeping the edge of the presser foot against the teeth and sewing straight down is going to give you exactly what you need. Here you can see the seam is about 3/8 from the edge of the tape inwards. That's because I'm using a 1 1/4 inch tape. If my tape was narrower and was just 1 inch wide, then it would be 1/4 of an inch in, so it would be a little further out this way. The technique is the same, it's just different distances for the different widths of the tape. Now that we have the zipper partially sewn onto this pocket bag, we need to take our main front piece. Remember, this is interfaced on the wrong side, and you can see my marks right there. Place your center front right sides up here. You're going to have the slanted edge. Take your pocket piece that has the zipper and place this right side of pocket to right side of the jacket right here. Wrong side of the pocket facing up. That's what you can see right there. And now we have these marks. We're going to match them to the ones on the other side. Little mark with this little mark. This one with this one over here. As an exception, I am going to use pins in this way. There you can see the stitch that we've done previously. Now the next seam is going to be done exactly right on top of the one we've done before. We're going to reinforce here, reinforce there, and sew all these layers together exactly on top of that seam. I'm going to keep the same zipper presser foot right there in the exact same position, because we still have the bulk of the tape underneath. I can clearly see where the seam started right there. So that is where I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to fiddle until I find the exact place, because that's what I want right there. For about 1/4 inch, we're going to sew with a really short stitch length. I'm going to shorten it to about 1.5. And then I'm going to make it 3 again and keep going right on top of the seam. This is why I also wanted to have an excess of length here, so that this zipper stop would be quite out of the way of this area. Now about 1/4 inch before the end, I'm also going to make the stitch length. We can see the seam. We can see that it's been caught within the interfaced area, which means this is going to be nice and stable and not wavy at all. That interfacing there is super, super important. Please don't skip it. Now this is the part where we do a snip. You can see where the seam stops. So I'm going to just draw a line 45-degree angle from there and over here as well. Now I'm eyeballing the 45-degree angle. I think I can eyeball that. 90 degrees would be there. And then, you know, that would be half. So I'm quite confident with my 45 degrees. And now I'm going to take my scissors and snip just this layer, just the interfaced layer, not any of this. You need to keep this intact. So put your fingers in there so you don't end up snipping any of that. And we're just cutting through this one layer. And we're snipping close to the dot right there. And over here as well. Now let's flip this over here so we can see tape. You can see the pocket has been flipped over that way like this. And now because we snipped into here, we can bring this forward over to the front right there. And it's the same over here. Now let's push this out of the way. And now we need to bring this zipper, pull down right up to that line. You can see the seam goes up to there. And now the next step is by hand. There's no other way to do it than by hand. I have some thread and I'm going to do this with a thread double. So I've got a knot here at the bottom. And we're going to do our own type of top right here. You can see where the stitching goes up to. So just right there, like a hair above it, I'm going to put my needle through, come to the other side and bring this together. Now to make this easier, now that I know I have the right spot, I'm just going to keep pushing this down to get it out of the way. We have it, and then I'm just going to go over and over and do the same thing. Now, why are we not using the original zipper stop? I think it's really clever this way. The technique that has been devised here makes the zipper easier to sew because you don't have all that bulk. This is ugly. You can't sew over this metal area and it would be harder to conceal. So creating your own stop just with thread is neater, it's less bulky, and this is going to be hidden behind everything, so no one's ever going to see this. So there's the stop for the top part, so this isn't going to go any further. Now this, let's fold it back. The fold is going to reach the mark and we're going to get a little rectangle right there. That's going to cover the stitching that we just did. You can see the fold reaches the mark right here and we get a neat little rectangle. A pin right there. And then on the other side it's the same. Take this excess, fold it back, fiddle with it until you have a neat rectangle. Look at that. Very neat. And you can see the fabric reaches the edge of the zipper tape on the top. That's why it was very specific about the seam allowances and the marks and all that. I'm going to give this a bit of hand basting just to keep that in place. Not this is already sewn. It's already got a main seam right there. The next step to fix this down is to edge stitch right here. Pivoting there, going across and there. And I don't want to have a pin there. It's just too small, too fiddly to have pins. Never worry about hand basting too much. It's never meant to be pretty. It's just meant to be functional. It's all about keeping the fabric in place and having it stay there while you sew the next step. Okay, there we have both edges fixed in place. Now I need to point out that when we edge stitch, we're going to have to do it in 2 stages because this is going to get in the way. So just be prepared for that. I'm going to use my blind hem presser foot with the needle to the left so it can sew in there, and that gets you really nice edge stitching. I'm going to hand crank over the plastic zipper teeth. Not that it's going to break my needle, I just want to make it smoother. There I have to pivot and keep going in this direction. I'm going to stop here about 2 inches before reaching the pull and just take the whole thing away. I'm going to grab a needle, pull this thread to the back and knot it. The pull just gets in the way. So there it is. Now I can take this, push it down out of the way. Again, when I start here, I'm not going to back tack. I'm just going to leave a thread and then push it to the back. The same way I did before, I'm just going to take this thread and push it to the back and knot it. And then this seam is going to look continuous. No one's ever going to know I did it in 2 stages. And it was the only way to get around this pull, not getting in the way. And there we have it, nice and neat. One side of the pocket bag is on. Now we have to sew the other one on. Let's look at our jacket from the wrong side. In this case, the wrong side of the pocket is touching the wrong side of the jacket right here, and we have the pocket right sides up. Now we take our other pocket bag and put it right sides together right here. You can see this is wrong sides up as well. So this is how you want it to look. Lining everything up, everything's going to have the same shape, and you're going to have wrong side of the jacket, wrong side of the pocket. Now we're going to join up the edges and we're going to sew all the way around. In this area, it will include these zipper areas that we're going to trim off later. So I'm just going to finish pinning this all the way around, and this side I'm going to push all the pocket to the other side, so I just have access to these layers, and then we're going to sew the 2 layers together. And because they already serged, we don't need to worry about that. Over here as well, just push everything that way. This is not hard. We have enough space here to be able to do that. That's why this mark is quite a distance away from here. See, that's caught everything. Now I'm going to push this aside and just trim. Trim is a little smaller, that it's hidden behind the pocket bag like that, so you can't really see it. It's all safe, nothing's going to come apart here. On this side as well, I'm just going to trim that tape and teeth shorter. Now the last step is to just baste that pocket bag onto the zipper tape on the edge. And there we have it, the other pocket is done. This is what I've just basted in right now, and when we sew the other piece, it's going to catch this, and we're going to end up sewing close to that edge right there. You're still going to have these marks that you're working with for the pocket. My coloring pencil does a really good job at keeping those marks. And then on this side, you also had these marks. So these are the ones that get matched up now, and then this edge finishes like this. You just line up that straight edge to the straight edge of the side seam and pin it together. This is the section that does 100% need the zipper presser foot, because the zipper is still under there. I've pushed the needle back to the normal position here with this regular presser foot, and now I'm going to sew this at 3/8. Just a little above the zipper area, I've stopped with this one, and I'll swap it for my zipper presser foot now. I've moved my needle to the left there so I get the correct seam allowance. From this other side, I'm going to try to push the zipper pull down, sew a little bit, and then I'm going to try and push it back up so it's not in the way. Okay, and now I'm going to push it back up. Okay, I was able to do that. Now through all the layers, this area of the zipper presser foot is against the teeth there. Even though I can't see it, it's doing it. Okay, the seam was done in 2 steps. The seam allowance was kept even all the way around, even while using 2 different presser feet. And now this has finally finished the pocket. It's caught the seam right there, as you can see. And now when we look at it from this side, the zipper is where it has to be. Okay, let me show you what I've done here. I serged from this edge up to a little over the pocket there, but then didn't serge this. And then I picked up a little before the pocket ends, right there with the serging. And then I kept going over here. All the excess thread from the serger there, I just undid it, so I just had free threads, and then I knotted it there to finish it off. And the same over here, so it's really neat. I really didn't want to go through the zipper tape, through all of that with the serger. I don't know, I have something against that at the moment. And what I'm going to do at the back with this area that's left a little raw is just trim it a little bit shorter, not that much, but just to make sure it's hidden underneath the other layers. You can see now it's just below the zipper tape, and when you see it from this side, the edge of the pocket bag is finished. We have the zipper tape, and it's still going to be neat. And remember, we're going to be doing some top stitching from the other side, and that's going to catch it down. I'm starting from the side seam here. I'm going to go about halfway and stop. This is the same process I did with the other side. I'm going to take my humongous needle here that's just easy to thread and push this back and knot it in the same way we had done the other side. So the stitch goes up to there. Now I'm just going to push this back, keep going all the way up to the top. And now we can say that the zippers are 100% done. Top stitched on both sides, very neat. I really love this. I can't tell you how much I love it. Look at this zipper pocket. I think it's amazing. Try to imagine this in any other seam. This one is diagonal right here, but you know, if this was on a vertical seam, the technique would be the same. So I think you could actually borrow this zipper and put it on other garments if you wanted to, using the same instructions, the same seam allowances. Just make sure that the main seam allowance for your garment is 3/8. If it's not modified, you can modify it to be 3/8 so that the zipper technique works perfectly. Really neat inside and very easy to achieve. There you saw a little sneak peek of the zipper pocket. Remember, on this garment it's sort of diagonal, but it doesn't have to be. It can be added onto any seam, and I think it's really amazing. Next video will be all about the jacket, the garment, and I hope you enjoy that. So that's it from me now. Very short and sweet, just the zipper tutorial on its own. But stay tuned, because in a little bit you'll see another video pop up on the channel. Till today. See you soon. Bye.